Hey guys, before the video starts, I'd just like to take a moment to say thank you. The channel recently hit 10,000 subscribers, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me. I never expected so many people to want to watch me play through Pokemon games with silly teams. Honestly, thank you all so much. To celebrate this milestone, I'm doing a Q&A, so if you have any questions you'd like to ask, then please write them down below in the comment section of this video and it might be featured in the Q&A coming soon. Once again, thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy this video. Hello guys, and welcome back to another challenge video. I know I took a break for a while, but I'm back now and I have plenty of videos in the works, so stay tuned. Today, something a little bit different. When I think of a Pokemon or a theme to base a video on, I think to myself, why not just pick something at random? So that's exactly what I did. So today we find out, can you beat Pokemon Crystal with a completely randomized team? I'd just like to mention that a YouTuber by the name of PTM has already done a video like this on Emerald, so make sure to check his video out and let him know that Plonkerboy sent you. The rules for this challenge are simple. I can only use the Pokemon picked by a random generator. If I choose a Pokemon that has already evolved, I can catch its pre-evolved form to use it until it evolves, but I cannot evolve it further. For example, if I got a Charmeleon, I could use a Charmander and evolve it, but I would not be able to evolve it into a Charizard. No legendaries allowed. I feel like if I got a legendary Pokemon, I'd just be able to sweep through the whole game with it. No items in battle. This is standard for a Pokemon challenge, it just helps to make the run a little bit more challenging. I can use Pokeballs to catch Pokemon, and items are allowed outside of battle. Oh, and HM slaves are also allowed. Well, that's the rules out the way, so there's only one thing left to do, and that's to see what the RNG gods bestow upon me for this run. So it's over to live commentary for a moment. Alright guys, welcome to the live narrated section of this video. We're going to generate 6 random Pokemon, and whatever we get are going to be the Pokemon we use on the team. So obviously I've not ticked Ubers, that would be cheating. NFEs are allowed, and if we get a Pokemon that isn't fully evolved, then we have to keep it that way, we're not allowed to evolve it. So yeah, let's do it, let's see what we get. Alright, well that's not the best team I've ever seen, but yeah, I think that'll do. So that's going to be our team. Weepinbell, Zubat, Hoothoot, Primeape, Quillfish, and Bellossom. So yeah, let's do this. I start the game and pick the male character this time. I name him Migi. You know the drill, comment down below if you get the reference. As is tradition, I name our rival Zwiggo because, you know, I'm better. Anyway, I decided to make my starter Quillfish as it's probably the most difficult Pokemon to find out of the 6. We get the Pokedex from Professor Oak and begin our journey. Zwiggo was a piece of cake, get wrecked, so our first real challenge is the first gym leader, Faulkner. Before that though, it's time to catch a couple of new team members. Just east of Violet City I catch a Bellsprout which I can evolve into a Weepinbell, and in the Dark Cave I catch a Zubat which unfortunately I won't be allowed to evolve. So we're stuck with the Zubat the whole game. Brilliant. Just brilliant. I train up our new members in the Sprout Tower and face off against the first gym leader. First up is Pidgey, so I send out Zubat. I do miss once, but I'm able to confuse it with a Supersonic and then swap out into Quillfish and set up a Minimize before dealing some good damage with Tackle. He does hit a few Mud Slaps on us, which means we miss a couple times, but eventually we're able to take it down. Last up is Pidgeotto, so we swap back into Zubat. We survive a Gust easily and confuse it with a Supersonic. Zubat's only way of dealing damage at the moment is Leech Life, so I swap back into Quillfish again. Pidgeotto doesn't hit himself in Confusion though, and it hits a Gust which hardly does any damage. We retaliate with a Poison Sting and actually get the Poison status too, so Pidgeotto is effectively a ticking time bomb at this point. We survive another Gust with just 3 HP remaining and hit one more Tackle before we faint to another Gust. I am really glad we got the Poison because we would be in a rough spot without it. I swap into Bellsprout and hit a Vine Whip for tiny damage after surviving a super effective Gust. We're outsped and KO'd by Gust, so it's down to my last Pokemon, Zubat. We survive a Gust with health to spare and I go for Supersonic but miss. Luckily though, the poison damage is really starting to wear him down, so all we have to do is survive this hit. He goes for Gust one more time and we're able to survive the hit, so the poison damage finishes him off, winning us badge number 1. I never expected the first gym fight to be so close. You may be wondering why I haven't picked up Hoothoot yet. It's because at the time of recording the gameplay it was daytime and Hoothoot only appears at night. There is another way to get one though, which will be happening relatively soon. With our shiny new badge in hand, we make our way to Azalea Town. After dealing with Team Rocket in Slowpoke well, we face off against the second gym leader, Bugsy. This fight wasn't too difficult. First up is Metapod, so I start with Zubat. It does do a little bit of damage, but we take it out in a couple of bites. Next out is Kakuna, but it suffers the same fate as Metapod. Bugsy's last Pokemon is Scyther, so I stay in and try and confuse it. Unfortunately though, we miss the Supersonic and go down to a couple of quick attacks. I swap into Qwilfish and go for Poison Sting, and it only takes a couple of hits before we get the poison. I go for Minimize because he starts to build up hits with Fury Cutter, which is a move that gets more powerful when used in succession. Eventually he misses, and a couple of tackles and the poison damage are enough to finish it off, winning us the second badge. Before we can leave Azalea, Zwiggo foolishly challenges us to a battle, but we beat him so easily that it's not even worth mentioning. Zwiggo, you're just trash. In Ilex Forest, I get the TM for Headbutt and teach it to Qwilfish, and this is how we can get our Hoothoot. Eventually I find one sleeping in a tree and add it to the team. As with Zubat, I won't be evolving this Hoothoot, so it'll be interesting to see if it's actually any good or not. Probably not, but you never know. You can also find Oddish here, but like Hoothoot, it can only be found at night. And it's not available in Headbutt trees either, so we're just going to have to wait a little bit. We arrive in Goldenrod City, and the first thing I do is head north and take part in the bug catching contest. I catch a Scyther which wins us the contest and we win the Sunstone. We're going to be needing that eventually to get Blossom. I train up the team a few levels and face off against the third gym leader, Whitney. First up is Clefairy, so I lead with Zubat. I confuse it with Supersonic and start spamming Bite. Thanks to good luck, we're able to knock it out without taking a single point of damage, so now it's down to her last Pokemon, her infamous Miltank. I swap into Bellsprout so we can poison it. We end up missing the first poison powder, but the second one hits. But she's starting to power up Rollout, so I'm getting a little bit terrified of this thing right now. We go down next turn, so I swap into Hoothoot only to immediately faint. My plan is to switch in Qwilfish once she's already used all 5 Rollouts, so I send out Zubat as a sacrifice. Zubat goes down, but now she's used Rollout 5 times in a row, so now I can send in Qwilfish, not that I had any other option. She's not doing too much damage yet, and our Headbutt does a decent amount alongside the poison damage. I decide to play it safe and use Minimize to try and get her to miss. She hits another 2 times though, and our Headbutt isn't enough to finish it off. We have a speed tie, so if I want to win this, I have to outspeed or pray she misses. Thankfully we hit first, and Headbutt is enough to finish off Miltank, winning us the badge in another close victory. We reach Ecruteak City, and while fighting the Kimono Girls, Bellsprout reaches level 21 and evolves into Weepinbell. Once again, we're not able to evolve this into a Victory Bell, but I'm thankful we could at least evolve it once. We pay a visit to the Burn Tower and find Zwiggo there once again. His team hasn't changed much since the last time, and we beat him easily. 2 words for you, Zwiggo: get good. Next up is Ghost-type Gym Leader Morty. He leads off with Ghastly, so I start with Zubat. He hits a couple of weak licks on us, but 2 bites take it out easily. Next up is one of his 2 Haunter. I stay in and get insanely lucky because he misses Hypnosis 3 times in a row, allowing us to knock it out in 3 bites. Next up is his strongest Pokemon, Gengar. He goes for Mean Look, which means Zubat can't switch out, as I hit with a Confuse Ray, which I learnt recently. He hits himself in Confusion and Bite does a small amount of damage, and the next turn he hits himself again, meaning we can get another bite, bringing it down to KO range. Unfortunately though, he snaps out of Confusion and lands a Hypnosis, putting us to sleep. This is bad. We can't switch out because of Mean Look, so I have no choice but to take a super effective Dream Eater, which knocks us out easily and heals back a fair amount of his HP too. I swap into Hoothoot, and thanks to our part normal typing, the only move he can hit us with is Dream Eater, so all I have to do is not get hit with Hypnosis. He goes for Mean Look and we hit back with our own Hypnosis, which lands, and I start hitting weak Pecks. He does wake up eventually, but never once hits Hypnosis, meaning we're able to knock it out slowly with Peck. Last up is his second Haunter, so I swap into Qwilfish, and 2 Surfs are all it takes to knock it out, winning us the 4th badge. Before moving on, I decide it's time to catch our next Pokemon, Mankey. And after searching for far too long in the route you can find it, I realised something. You can only find Mankey in Gold version, not Crystal.
What are you? An idiot sandwich.
This is a bit of a dilemma. I decide the best way to go about this is just to use a cheat code to face one in the wild and catch it. It's caught in the same route as it would be in Gold, and it's the same level too, so I don't really gain any special advantage. We move on to Olivine City and talk to Jasmine in the lighthouse, who sends us on a fetch quest to obtain the secret potion in Cianwood City. While I'm there, I face off against the fighting type gym leader Chuck. We have a lot of poison and flying types on the team, so this gym wasn't too difficult. First up is Primeape, so I start with Quillfish. He does land a critical hit karate chop on us, but we take it out with ease with a couple of surfs and a headbutt. Last up is Poliwrath, so I send out Weepinbell. We're hit with a dynamic punch and get confused, only to miss the sleep powder. He goes for Mind Reader this turn though, and this time we don't miss, so sleep powder puts him to sleep. He immediately uses a full heal to cure him though, and our Vine Whip does a decent amount of damage. We're hit with another dynamic punch, but we're able to survive and put it to sleep once again. We hit one more Vine Whip, bringing it down to about half, but next turn we hit ourselves in confusion and knock ourselves out. Great job, Weepinbell. I swap into Quillfish, and thanks to a critical hit, we're able to clean up with just 2 headbutts, winning us the badge. We return to Olivine City and we give the secret potion to Amphi, and now we can challenge Jasmine, the 6th gym leader. Her steel types are quite difficult for us to deal with thanks to all our poison types, but we do have Mankey on the team. I decide to train it a few levels first though and evolve it into a Primeape. Alright, Jasmine time. Her first 2 Pokemon are Magnemite and they both get destroyed by Primeape's Karate Chop, so all that's left is her Steelix. I swap into Quillfish and hit a super effective Surf, which does over half, but she uses Sunny Day, which lowers the power of water type moves. Because of this, one more Surf is not quite enough to finish it off, and she fully heals with a Hyper Potion. Her Iron Tail doesn't do too much damage to us though, so a few more Surfs knock it out before we can take too much damage. That was a surprisingly easy win. I wait until nighttime so I can finally catch our final team member, Oddish. It's pretty useless at the moment, as we have Weepinbell who basically plays the exact same role. But once it evolves, I think it'll actually play quite differently. I evolve it into a Gloom, but I decide to hold off on evolving it again for a little while. We have some Team Rocket stuff to deal with, but as you probably know, they are laughably easy in this game. So let's skip over all that and pick things back up at the 7th gym leader price. This gym was also pretty easy. First up is Seal, so I start with Weepinbell. Vine Whip is enough to 2-hit KO, and his Icy Wind really doesn't do too much damage, so it goes down easily. Next up is Dugong, who's slightly more threatening, so I swap into Primeape, and thanks to Karate Chop's high crit ratio, we're able to knock it out from full health thanks to a critical hit. Price's last Pokemon is Piloswine, so I switch out and go into Quillfish, who can easily 2-hit KO with a Surf. That was probably the easiest gym fight yet. Before moving on, I get the TM for Sludge Bomb. We have a lot of poison types who would really love this move, but I decide to teach it to Quillfish as it's got the highest attack stat on the team, so I think it'll make the best use of the move. I also teach it the TM for Icy Wind for coverage. There's more Team Rocket stuff here, so nothing worth mentioning, apart from another fight with an absolute scrub Zwiggo. He starts with Golbat, so I send out Quillfish. Our new Icy Wind does a good amount of damage as he confuses us with a Confuse Ray. We hit ourselves in confusion and take a wing attack before finally hitting back with a Surf. However, it's not enough to KO when we get hit with another wing attack before snapping out of confusion and landing a finishing blow with Headbutt. Next up is Magnemite, so I swap into Primeape and swiftly end its life with a well-placed Karate Chop. Zwiggo's fully evolved starter Meganium is out next, so I swap back into Quillfish and try out our new Sludge Bomb. It brings it all the way down to red health as he sets up a Reflect. I'm sorry to say though, that is not saving you from another Sludge Bomb. Next up is Haunter, so I switch in Zubat. I go for Confuse Ray as he goes for Curse, cutting his HP in half. Next turn, Haunter hits itself in confusion and our bite is almost enough to KO, but he lives on a sliver. That's no problem though, as once again he hits himself and goes down. He did more damage to himself than I did to him there. Last up is Sneasel, and Primeape's Karate Chop is 4 times super effective, so needless to say, Sneasel is not surviving that. We win the fight, but of course we did. Zwiggo is just bad.
Well, okay then, Mr. I'm going to finish this Soul Link episode by tomorrow, and now it's been 2 months. Mr. I upload once a freaking year. I have more subs than you anyway. Goodbye.
Yeah, well, your mum.
Boom. Roasted.
With Team Rocket out of the way, we move on to Blackthorn City and face the 8th and final gym leader, Claire. This fight could have gone better, but it wasn't too bad. She has 3 Dragonair, and the first one goes down really easily to Primeape thanks to Ice Punch, which I taught via TM before this fight. We do get paralysed though, so we can't beat the next one, and this one actually goes on a mini rampage, defeating a good amount of our team. Quillfish saves the day with a Sludge Bomb though, and the next Dragonair goes down easily enough, so it's just down to her last Pokemon, Kingdra. Sludge Bomb does decent damage, but less than half. We do get the poison though, so despite her using a few Hyper Potions, we're able to knock it out eventually with a few more Sludge Bombs. With all 8 badges down, it's time for Victory Road. On the way I find the TM for Solar Beam, so I decide that now's the best time to evolve Gloom. I teach our newly evolved Blossom Sunny Day and Solar Beam, so now we can fire off powerful grass type stab moves without even having to charge. We make our way through Victory Road, but who stops us from proceeding? It's only the best YouTuber and incredibly talented Zwiggo. He starts with Sneasel, so I lead with Primeape, and one Karate Chop is obviously enough to KO. Next up is Golbat, so I swap into Quillfish. It's a close one as we get confused, but we're able to finish it off with a few surfs and a headbutt, no problem. Magneton is out next, so I swap into Primeape and one hit KO with a 4-time super effective dig. Next up is Kadabra, so I swap into Bellossom and try out our new Sunny Day strategy. He does set up a Future Sight, but we hit with a powerful Solar Beam which brings it down to red health. He does go for Recover, but that's not enough to save him from one more Solar Beam. Next up is his starter Meganium, so I swap back into Quillfish as we have Sludge Bomb, and we faint to the Future Sight. Great job. I send out Weeping Bell and we're able to poison it with Poison Powder and hit an Acid before fainting to a few Body Slams. I send out Hoothoot and set up a Reflect so that his Body Slam deals less damage. We go down shortly after, so I send in Blossom, and a couple of Solar Beams finish it off. Zwiggo's final Pokemon is Haunter, so I swap in Primeape and go for Dig, but it only does half as Meganium set up a Reflect earlier. We survive a Shadow Ball though, so one more finishes the job and we beat Zwiggo for the final time. GG. I decide to train up the team a few levels before fighting the Elite Four. In the process, Quillfish learns Hydro Pump and Weeping Bell learns Razor Leaf. First up is Will, who uses Psychic types, and this guy ended up being the most difficult challenge of the entire run. Take a look at our team. How many of our Pokemon are weak to Psychic? Yep, 4 out of 6, so you can see why I struggled with this fight. Eventually though, we do get the win. First up is Xatu, so I start with Quillfish and go for Hydro Pump. Unfortunately though, it's not enough to KO and we get hit with a massive Psychic, which brings us all the way down to just 14 HP. I finish it off the next turn, and next out is Jinx, who swiftly faints to a Sludge Bomb. Next up is Slowbro, so I swap into Blossom and 2 Solar Beams are all it takes to knock it out. Exeggutor is out next, and I don't really have a counter for this thing, so I stay in and paralyze it. Thanks to the sheer power of Solar Beam, we're actually able to take it out in a few hits. Will's final Pokemon is another Xatu, so I swap into Hoothoot and hit a Fly. It only does a small amount of damage and we go down next turn, but that's fine because now we're in KO range for Quillfish to come in and clean up with a Sludge Bomb. I know that may have seemed easy enough, but trust me, that took a lot of tries. Next up is Koga, and he was a lot easier for me to deal with. He starts off with Ariados, so I lead with Hoothoot and 2 Flies are enough to KO. Next up is Fortress. I don't have a fire move, but I guess water is the next best thing as I swap into Quillfish and take it out in 2 surfs. Venomoth is out next, so I swap into Zubat thinking I'd be faster, but that's not the case. We get outspared and KO'd from full health with Psychic. I swap in Hoothoot and I'm able to hit 1 Fly for over half of its health before going down to a couple of Psychics. I swap into Primeape and finish it off with a Strength, and Crobat is out next. I switch Quillfish back in and go for Icy Wind. We get outsped as he sets up a double team, but we're still able to hit, lowering his speed in the process. We don't end up missing, and 2 Surfs are enough to finish it off from there. Koga's final Pokemon is Muck, so I swap back into Primeape and hit with a super effective Dig. We still hit despite him using Minimize and deal good damage as we're hit with a powerful Sludge Bomb. We do get poisoned, but we're able to take it out with 1 more Dig, securing us the victory. Bruno is up next, and this was probably the easiest of the Elite Four members. Most of the team either resist fighting type moves or we can hit fighting type super effectively, so I wasn't too scared. Hitmontop is out first and Zubat is able to take it out in a couple of wing attacks, no problem. Onix is out next, so I swap into Weeping Bell and 1 Razor Leaf takes it out before you can even say grass types are bad. Next up is Hitmonchan, so I send out Quillfish. Thunder Punch is special in Generation 2 and Hitmonchan's special attack just is awful, so we don't take much damage and take it out with a Sludge Bomb and Surf. Hitmonlee is out next, so I swap back into Zubat. I thought I'd be faster, but we get outspared, confused with Swagger, and then we hit ourselves in confusion. We go down to a high jump kick the next turn, so I swap into Hoothoot, who gets immediately destroyed by high jump kick as well. I send out Weeping Bell this time, and despite hitting ourselves in confusion, we take it out in 2 acids, thanks to Swagger raising our attack. Bruno's final Pokemon is Machamp, so I stay in. I put it to sleep and hit with an acid for decent damage. I hit a couple more times, bringing it down to red health, but of course he uses a max potion. We bring it back down below half before he wakes up and ends us with a rock slide. I swap back into Quillfish and one Sludge Bomb is easily enough to seal the deal. The final member of the Elite Four is Karen. After she asks to speak to the manager, she challenges us to a battle. She starts off with Umbreon. Normally this thing is incredibly difficult to deal with as it's so bulky, but one Cross Drop from Primeape is all it takes. It wasn't even a critical hit. Next up is Vileplume, so I swap into Zubat. We confuse it and then we're able to knock it out in just 2 wing attacks thanks to a critical hit. Next up is Gengar. I swap Primeape back in and go for Dig as it does over half and... Classic Pokemon AI there. Next up is Murkrow, so I swap into Quillfish and take it out pretty easily with just 2 Surfs. Karen's final Pokemon is Houndoom. I stay in and hit a super effective Surf, but it's not enough and she knocks us out with the Crunch. I swap into Primeape once more and go for Strength to finish it off, but she uses a max potion. It still does a good amount of her HP though, so I'm able to knock it out next turn with a Dig for the win. Now we've beaten the Elite Four, all that stands between us and the Victory Royale is Lance. He starts with a Gyarados, so I send out Blossom. He sets up the Rain as I paralyse it with Stun Spore. I go for Sunny Day and start spamming Solar Beam. We do get hit with the Hyper Beam, but thanks to good paralysis luck, we're able to knock it out in 3 hits. Next up is one of his 3 Dragonite. I swap into Primeape and hit a 4-time super effective Ice Punch. Our special attack isn't great though, so it's not enough to KO. He goes for Thunder Wave, but thankfully it fails, meaning we can take it out with 1 more. Next up is Aerodactyl, so I swap into Quillfish. We get hit with a Hyper Beam but survive with HP to spare. Surf isn't enough to 1-hit KO, but he can't move the next turn anyway, so we're able to take it out without any problems. Next up is Dragonite number 2. I swap back into Primeape and hit an Ice Punch. It deals the same sort of damage as last time, but unfortunately this time we do get hit with the Thunder Wave. We're slower than it now and we get hit with a Hyper Beam, but we're able to knock it out before it can move. Charizard is up next, so I swap into Quillfish and 2 Surfs are all it takes to get the KO. It's now down to Lance's final Pokemon, his level 50 Dragonite. Primeape is not in good shape, so I stay in and hit an Icy Wind, which does okay damage and lowers his speed. We fall to an Outrage shortly after though, so I swap into Weepinbell and put it to sleep. Unfortunately though, he uses a full restore, not only curing him of his sleep, but also fully healing it. Acid hardly does any damage, so I decide to poison it this time. We're able to hit the poison powder before fainting to 1 Fire Blast. I swap in Zubat and hit a Confuse Ray. He hits himself with Confusion as we hit a Wing Attack. It doesn't do much, but the residual damage from Confusion and the poison are adding up really fast. He does manage to hit an Outrage though, which is easily enough to KO Zubat. My plan now is to stall it out with Hoothoot. I send it out and I go for Fly. We're outsped, but thankfully Dragonite hits itself in Confusion. I really don't think we would have survived an Outrage. While we're in the air, Dragonite hits itself in Confusion again, and then the poison damage is enough to finish it off. We beat Lance, and our team of randomly generated Pokemon have beaten Pokemon Crystal. Well, the main game at least. You all know there's one more main challenge before we can claim the title. That's right, we have to beat Red. If you've played this game before, you'll know that the Kanto gym leaders are pretty much all pushovers, with the exception of Blue, but even he wasn't too difficult for our RNG Dream Team. After a little bit of grinding, I feel like my team is ready for the final boss of the game, Red. He leads off with Pikachu, so I send out Primeape. I know for a fact that this thing likes to spam Charm, so I go for Cross Chop, hoping for a critical hit. He does indeed go for Charm, and we do actually get the critical hit as well, so Pikachu goes down from full health. Next up is Espeon, so I swap into Blossom. He sets up a Reflect as I paralyse it with Stun Spore. I set up a Sunny Day and I'm able to hit 1 Solar Beam before going down to a couple of Psychics. I swap in Quillfish, and thanks to him getting fully paralysed, we're able to take it out in 2 Sludge Bombs without even taking damage. Next up is Snorlax, so I swap back into Primeape and hit a Cross Chop, getting another critical hit. Thank God for high crit ratio moves. It almost takes it out, but he lives on a sliver of health. Thankfully though, he just wastes a turn using Amnesia, so I go for Strength. He doesn't heal up or anything though, so it's enough to finish it off. Next up is Charizard, so I swap back into Quillfish again. We're outsped, but he decides to go for Fire Spin for some reason. Surf does more than half and we tank a critical hit flamethrower, so one more Surf knocks it out. Next up is Venusaur, so I send out Zubat and we're able to confuse it with Confuse Ray and hit a wing attack for decent damage before going down to a couple of Solar Beams. I send out Hoothoot and survive another Solar Beam and hit with a Fly for good damage. Now that the sun has faded, it's taken Venusaur 2 turns to set up Solar Beams, so I'm able to work around that by using Fly on the turns he charges, meaning that his Solar Beam always misses. This strategy means we can actually take it out slowly but surely. Red's final Pokemon is Blastoise, so I send out Weepinbell. He outspeeds and goes for Blizzard, but we get insanely lucky and he misses, meaning that we can put it to sleep. I start spamming Razor Leafs. 2 take it down to half health, so I'm not sure if I can take it out before he wakes up. I go for a third Razor Leaf, and we get a critical hit, which is enough to knock out Blastoise. We beat Red, and beat Pokemon Crystal with a randomly generated team. Thank you all for watching. If you guys enjoyed this challenge, then make sure to leave a like. The great thing about this is that I can do this challenge as many times as I like and will always get a different team, so if you want to see more of these, then let me know in the comments. I could make this a little side series or something. It was really fun to do, and I'd highly recommend you trying this yourself. When you look at the team I was given this time, it was pretty obvious who was going to be useful and who was going to be less so. The biggest surprise for me here was actually Qwilfish. It's not known for being the strongest Pokemon around, but it definitely carried this team, alongside Primeape of course. I also hope you all enjoyed my April Fool's video. It was something a little bit silly and I hope you all saw the funny side. What challenge should I take on next? Leave a comment down below and I'll give you a shout out in the video if your idea is picked. Remember though, no solo runs. I like to leave those to other YouTubers if I can. If you enjoyed this video, then leave a like and subscribe for more content just like this. That's all from me, so thank you so much for watching. Until next time.